Hey everybody, it's Greenwood again with another tutorial video. This one is going to be the second video in the splitting the middle term series of videos. So we can talk about doing steps 5 and 6 within splitting the middle term to factor our quadratics. So step 5 is to factor by grouping. So we're going to do 3 factor by groupings, and then we'll write our final answer. Okay. So in the last video, we talked about how to get to step 4. And so now we're going to continue on. So I will show you what this looks like. We'll walk through it. And I will also, in a future video, talk about how to use the area model using the rectangles to factor this as well from step 4. Okay, so now that we're ready, let's get into it. So what I want to do is I want to look at this group and this group. So I'm going to look at them separately. So I'm going to look at x squared and 2x and say, what do these two things have in common? All right. And so if you need help with that, you can look at a GCF video, which is we're finding the greatest common factor. So numerically, 1 and 2, 1 is the largest number that goes into both. And x squared and x, this is xx, remember? So remember that x squared is just x times x, or xx. So we're looking for how many they have in common. They have one x in common. So that means we're going to factor out an x. Looks like I'm having some troubles here. Let's try that again. Okay. So when I factor out an x, x times x is x squared. And x times 2 is 2x. Okay, so there's the first part. Now that's factor by grouping 1. Now let's look at factor by grouping 2. I'm going to put a little 1 there. So I did that first. I'm going to do this second. Okay, let's make that. There we go. So now we're looking at the second group. So I'm looking at 8 and 10. What do 8 and 10 have in common? Well, if I list my factor pairs over here, we're going to say 8. We're going to go 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. And intuitively, you may already know the answer, and that's fine. But in case you're not sure, what we're looking at is the largest number these two share. In this case, it looks like that's 2. And I have an x here, but no x here, so they don't have an x in common. So we are going to pull out a 2 right here. And then, oh, okay. So I see that I've made a mistake here. And go ahead and pause the video, see if you can figure out what the mistake is. And then I will share it. Okay, so if you pause to try to figure that out, here is the mistake I made. So I looked at my 10 from the last video and wrote a 10 here instead of writing a 16 for my C term. So I need to fix that because I knew it wasn't quite working out exactly what I wanted. So I need what's in common between 8 and 16, not 10. So let's fix this. And I think that might even change my 2 there. So let's take a look. So I have 1 times 16, 2 times 8. I can already tell you that 8 is going to be the thing they share because I got an 8 there and I've got an 8 there, and I can't be anything bigger than 8 out of 8 without getting a fraction. So we're going to factor an 8. Oh, let's use the red. An 8 there. And when I factor an 8 out, I'm left with just 1x, or x. When I factor 8 out of 16, I get 2, so x plus 2. And then, so there's my second one. And so now the third factor by grouping, I'll use black here, you'll notice something kind of interesting happens. These two parentheses are the same. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor an x plus 2 out of both terms here. So I'm left with an x right here. And let's use purple for this one. So an x plus an 8. Okay, so there's the completely factored expression. And the thing that's great about this is I can double distribute back. So x times x, x times 8, 2 times x, and 2 times 8. And then when I combine like terms, I'll get back to exactly where I started. Okay, so factoring is dividing it out this way. Distributing will be multiplying it back up the other direction. Okay. All right, so I'll give you a second. You can pause the video. You can try and complete the steps here on question 2, the U try, and then I'll come show you the answer. Okay, so I forgot to mark this was the third factor by grouping. So I'm going to have you try this one. You tried it. We'll go through it. So I'm going to look at, there's group 1, there's group 2, and then we'll get to group 3 in a minute. So x squared and 2x, well, it's the same thing we had here. So x is what's in common, and I'm left with, let's use some color here, x plus 2. And over here, I'm looking at 6x and 12. Well, I know my factors of 12 are listed right here. And interestingly enough, 6 and 6, we get the same kind of thing that just happened. So I'm going to use, actually, I'll use orange because you can tell the difference. No, actually, can't tell the difference between the orange and the red. Let's go with green because that'll definitely conflict. So when I factor my 6 out, I get x, and then 2 times 6 is 12, so x plus 2. And now we're going to look at the whole thing together. That'll be my third factor by grouping. So notice that the 2 red parentheses are the same, so we'll factor those out. And then I'm left with the other group, which is x plus 6. Okay. All right, well, there you go. There's a very basic introduction to splitting the middle term by factoring. So in the next video, I'll talk about how to use the area model to do this, and then we'll talk about some other examples with negatives and with numbers in front of the x squared that aren't 1. Hope this one helped you, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.